podcast where we share strategies for business growth by creating monthly recurring revenue. And we talk about automations and exciting business items. I'm Lori Audate, the co host for Andy Audate. How are you doing this week, Andy?
Today and this week is tremendously phenomenal. It's really all about progression for me and teaching other people on how to progress in our businesses.
Definitely. Well, I'm excited to kind of nerd out today. At least that's what I call it because we talk about so many things like on our regular time and hanging out, but I was definitely inspired about a topic that I study for fun. Everywhere I go, I think about this. I'm like, they could do that differently. They could switch this up. What are their numbers? How fast? So the word here is bottleneck. The topic is going to be bottlenecks in business. In your experience, where have you seen the bottlenecks in your business be kind of like a problem? And what has your journey been in discovering the bottlenecks in your business?
So before we go into that, let's identify what a bottleneck is. I just went in and searched Investopedia, and it says a bottleneck is a point of congestion in a production system that prevents it from functioning at full speed. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. That's what Investopedia says is a bottleneck. Or another way is a business bottleneck is a point in a process where the flow of work becomes delayed or it breaks down completely. So before I talk about an example of bottlenecks, I'm going to give you a scenario of what a bottleneck could be in a business. So let's say, for example, if you have 30 employees that work for you, and out of the 30 employees, every decision of output has to go through you. So for example, if you let's say you run a marketing agency and you're like, I want to scale a marketing agency, I want to get to 100 customers. And every time a landing page is built, every time an ad is created, every time copies are written, you have to have the final say. That means you have 100 customers and all of it leads to this one person that you make the final decision. And then a bottleneck is when it all comes down to you. So now your team can't fulfill 100% for your client because you're the only one that can actually make the decision to pass it through. So that's what a bottleneck is. Like, I want you to imagine a big flow. Like, if you think about a Coca-Cola bottle, put it on the side, you have this big hole in the middle, which is where the water, the Coca-Cola, or whatever fills in the middle. But for everything to leave the bottle, it has to pass through this little tight hole at the top, and it slows things down. That's a bottleneck. Okay. But I wanted to create context because I remember in the beginning, especially when I went to college for business management, they would say these words bottleneck, and I'm like, what's a bottleneck? I would make fun of people in high school and call each other turtlenecks. Like that was an example of something where I said, hey, you're a turtleneck, and I'm like, I don't know what that really means, but now I know what bottleneck is, and so just wanted to throw it back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that. I will say because I use it in my everyday like lingo, I think for me it's become like a common thing. But I mean again, I graduated college 2014, then I went into project management, so bottleneck is like an everyday conversation. But I do appreciate you breaking it down because yes, this is a very common discussion in the business world, but specifically in the operational aspect of business. So this is most commonly seen for directors of operations, project managers, college courses, or if you have a coach that actually coaches in business like yourself, you're looking down to those details. You're asking those questions about their numbers, their team size, their team production. So yes, if this is the first time hearing it, it's not like it's a secret word or anything, but it does require specific study on the operational side of business. So I do appreciate you breaking it down. So for you, being a founder of multiple businesses, would you say that this is something that when you started your businesses, did you do the whole business plan and like let me identify the bottleneck? Because that's what I was taught in college, or did
Yeah,
you learn it through experiences and kind of like hard knock life lessons?
definitely. I'm a hard knock life. Unfortunately, I'm a hard knock life person. I think that's the real way to learn. If you learn from a book, no matter, like, for example, like, there's no way that a book could teach me how to be a great husband to you. I can learn a bunch of things, but it's through experience where I identify all the small cues that create value in our relationship, that create value for you. Same thing for our customers, right? So there's the hard knock life of actually losing customers. I'm making it so apparent, like, hey, through experience, this is why we have these processes, this is why we have these systems. Now, books and courses and trainings can help me for sure streamline that process and go much faster and identify problems and solutions much faster. That's what the books, the courses, the programs, the coaches do. But Hard Knock Life is going to give you that tattoo of an experience. Like it's like a tattoo, because when you go through a course, it's like, but you don't know until you realize, oh shoot, like this is real. It's not until money dries up that you learn certain lessons. It's not until you lose a customer that you learn certain lessons. It's not until you have a chargeback that you lose certain lessons, right? So those experiences, like yesterday, I was doing someone in my one of my coaching programs messaged the group and said, hey, how do you manage your statement descriptor? Now, most people are like, what is a statement descriptor? Well, it's because I use the word chargeback, right? When you're running a business, especially a digital marketing business, and now there's so many things you can buy online for $1.99 and free trials. Just put your credit card information. It's so easy, especially now that it's easier to do with Apple Pay. The statement descriptor is what shows up on a credit card statement, and it's possible that your merchant processor, the business name that you have, is different than what some other people are going to know your business by. So, for example, our business name is Audate Media, but let's say an affiliate of ours sells Progretta, which is our software. If they're an affiliate of our Progretta system, and no one has met Andy Audate and don't know what Audate Media is, if an affiliate sells Progretta and it were to say Audate Media on the credit card statement, it would be like, what the hell is Audate Media? I don't know what that is. And then they call the bank and then they charge it back. But they did a legitimate transaction in that scenario. They did a little bit a legitimate transaction. The statement descriptor is what the credit card statement says. So someone in our coaching program said, hey, what is the what is your statement descriptor, and what is the process for statement descriptors? So we gave them the blueprint and the process. So instead of them having to experience a chargeback where they lose money, we just saved them from that headache, because we went through that already. We just saved them from that headache, and we already created a solution for them. So you can learn the hard way, like I have, or you can just hire someone, hire a coach, read the books, listen to the podcast, and so forth.
Definitely. I agree with that. Like you said, it's when you get a coach or where you pay for a program or the books, right? Like I've read so many books. I know you read, like, how many books do you think you read a week that you're consuming knowledge, like business related, business growth, mindset? Like how many books do you think you read a week?
I mean, in a week, I'm average. I'm going to be consuming at least one in a week, but in a month, it may be two or three.
Yeah. So when you do sign up for some like a program or anything like that, and no, we're not pitching a program right now, but this is just to show like the experiences that people bring to the table. Sometimes it's a combination of book, course, college, they've had another coach mentor them, things like that. So it's saving you time and not making the same mistakes. So I agree with that. It's like you can save someone from hitting those same issues, that same wall in their business, so that they can save time and in return actually get the results that they probably got into business for. It could have been for passion project. It could have been to serve a community. It's just that nobody tells people like how much goes into business every day. But going back to the bottleneck topic here, what would you say is a common bottleneck in business? If someone's in that phase of like, no, I am generating revenue, I'm hitting 10,000 a month, but at that stage of business, what's a common bottleneck that you've seen?
If someone is hitting $10,000 in revenue,
yeah, so they're not like trying to get their first customers, because the way I see a bottleneck is when you have customers, you have an inflow of people, you have inflow of opt-ins, leads, customers, you have a team. But I see a bottleneck, like this is how I think about it. If you go into a restaurant and you try to place an order, and there's a big difference between In-N-Out, right? They can process, I don't know how many tickets, but I've gone in there and you're like, your ticket number 450 and it's like 12 noon. But then you go into a mom and pop restaurant, there's only 2 customers and they can't handle it. So I think bottleneck of like, you have the customers and you have the leads. something's just broken, that it's very uncomfortable and it's not serving the customer at all.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest bottlenecks, okay, let's say you had $10,000, it's probably going to be customer support. Is adequate timing to give customers the right response. So, for example, if you're in sales and you're in fulfillment, that's $10,000 a month is actually a tough spot to be in, actually, because if you're making sales, you're making sales, you're doing the fulfillment, you have a challenging time to actually support your customers, and you don't at $10,000, you're probably not making enough to actually hire customer support out. So you're in this race of like losing customers because you don't give adequate support. And then you're in this race of like trying to get customers to replace what you've lost and then also still grow, right? So if you're like, you got one, but then you lost one, and then you want to acquire another one to replace the one that you lost, but you're stuck at the same level and you're in this rat race of like, oh, I made $120,000 in a month, in a year. But that's because you did $10,000 a month times 12 and you stayed at $10,000 a month, and it was not growth. So I think the biggest bottleneck that I've seen at 10,000 is probably going to be around the customer support, not being able to adequately communicate to customers in an effective time, and give the ample amount of attention and support for your customers.
Yes, and I actually think it's sales, which falls into fulfillment and customer service. I think when someone's making $10,000 a month, they have momentum. They're like, oh, I can close the deals. I do have an influx. But like you said, it creates this hamster wheel of like, I signed up two, but I lost one. And
Yeah.
that's just a very hectic lifestyle. So it goes back kind of tying into what I was thinking, which is sales. Would you agree or disagree that sometimes as business owners, the quickest solution they can think of is to hire someone when there's a bottleneck and it might be a mistake? Would you agree or disagree?
It depends on the function. So it depends on the function if there's necessary. The first thing I would share through hindsight is I would first attempt to automate using some type of automation tool. It could be artificial intelligence. It could be the some type of like Zapier connection. It could be something with Progretta. But I would identify there's ways that I can automate certain communications. So, for example, if a bottleneck is that you have frequently asked questions before hiring someone, you may want to put at the bottom of your webpage frequently asked questions in a column and rows of different frequently asked questions. So that way people don't have to come back to you. That's one way, right? Another way is if you're communicating the same thing every single time to your customer, you can put it on a web page through a video, right? And give them direction through a video. So like, hey, I have this question about like, how do I log in into I just purchased your online program. How do I log in? Oh, you know what? You don't know how to log in. If you're at the $10,000 mark, it's possible that you're gonna now say, let's hop on Zoom, right? I'll show you how to log in. Let's hop on Zoom. And then you're like, okay, let's schedule it for tomorrow. And then you have a meeting to teach someone how to log in. And then another customer buys, and then they say, how do I log in? Well, you now have a date night with your wife or your husband and so forth. So you're like, okay, I can't do it on the date night, so let me push it away. And then now, 2 days later, 4 days later, your customer who never found a way to log in was Googling one of your competitors, and then they said, "Oh, you have the same program for less? Oh, I'm gonna just buy this." And then they contact your team, and they say, "Can you give me a refund?" I was trying to figure out how to log in, and I went on YouTube trying to figure out how to log into your course, and then I found this other guy. I went down his funnel. He went down, gave him my email address. I got his offer. Now I'm purchased his program. Can you give me a refund for what I bought from you? And then that's what I mean by lose one, right? So you're making 10 grand in this scenario, and then your customer says, "How do I log in?" And you say, I can't get a hop on a call with you today. I got to meet. I have a dinner with my wife, or I have a dinner with my husband. I have a soccer game with my kids. Let's meet next week." And then they say, "Okay." And then as next week's coming along, they're on YouTube during the weekend. They come back to you, and then they say, "Can I get a refund? I went to some other guy that I found on YouTube, and it was actually cheaper, so I just go with him." Now, in that scenario, the solution could have been as simple as recording a video of, and as soon as someone purchases, automatically sending an email with instructions on how to log in. That could have solved your problem. Did you know that I was recording looms before Loom was a thing?
Yeah, you were ahead of the curve.
I used to use on my courses. Loom wasn't a thing like how it is today. We use in our company we use Loom for SOPs, recording our screen, educating customers. I use it for video sales letters. I use it to record me and my screen. It's loom.com. And when years ago, before that was a thing, I used to record on QuickTime Player on my MacBook. So I would record my screen. There was like a screen record feature, and I would create like 20-minute videos on how to log into my course, how to go through the content. And this is like 2017, 2018. But I would educate people on how to go through that journey, and that was part of my journey of like, okay, I can't teach everyone how to log in, and I automated that through a video. So first thing before you start hiring people, the first thing I would identify is how can I automate it, to answer your question.
Yes. The reason I asked that is because I do remember when I was on the creative side of the business, when we had the Audate Media, managing so many people, there was many times where I was the bottleneck. And what I mean by that is every video and creative asset, I had to confirm, like verify, quality assure, and all of that. And so there was moments where I'd be like, I'm the bottleneck. Kind of like how you see the memes today nowadays, like, am I the problem? And then I
Yeah.
for sure was the problem, right? So I do want to leave someone with like questions that they can ask, three basic questions that they can ask, because this podcast is identifying and we will be breaking down solutions on the next one. So we'll have a part two to this topic. But three questions that a business owner, CEO can ask after they watch this, the next time that they sit down at their desk, they're reflecting so that they can identify their bottleneck. The one I will add will be, what step do you keep repeating, or in other words, what step is constantly getting on overdue, like overdue. For me, when I was on the creative asset side, I was overwhelmed by the amount of videos I had to watch, and I was overwhelmed by the amount of approvals I had to do, where I could never catch up. So the first question I
Mhm.
would say is, sit down and ask yourself, what step in my business, in my role, am I constantly doing that I can never finish or get to? What's a question that you would add that they can ask for themselves when they're reflecting and identifying their bottleneck?
What are some recurring tasks that you have to do every single day or every week? What are some things that you're responsible for, and it slows down the growth, it slows down the fulfillment of your business, that you're responsible for? I want you to really understand, like, I think as a business owner, when you go to work, what you're doing as a business owner versus a entrepreneur or solopreneur. Okay, so you got business owner who owns a business. A business owner is someone who runs a system, and when a business owner goes to work, they're building on top of their system. A solopreneur or even an entrepreneur, that's going to be someone who goes to work to do the work. I want you to understand the difference, because the solopreneur or the entrepreneur, this person is going to go to work and they're going to say, I have a meeting with my client to discuss what they purchased, right? And it all starts and derives from intent, because both looks identical, but they're two different. They're very different. A solopreneur goes to work to actually do the thing. A business owner is going to work to identify what needs to be done and create processes so that way they never have to do it again. You see? So if you're looking to build a multi-million-dollar business, every day that you're going to work and spending 8 hours, you're going to look at some of the processes. You're going to say, how in the world can I never, you're going to do the work and identify a way to never do it again. So that means every month you're doing things differently, right? Every week, every month, every 2 months, every quarter, you're doing things differently. A solopreneur and entrepreneur, they're going in doing the same thing every single week. So meaning they're getting on the same calls, the same type of sales calls. The reason years ago I would get on sales calls in the way that I got on sales calls is so I could build a process, so I could build a sales team, right? Now I had a sales team. When I would speak on stages, I was learning on how I can help other people speak on stages. Now we have hundreds of people following Andy's framework and Andy's processes on how to speak on webinars today. Today, I just got off a Q&A call with a group of people. Today, we have hundreds of people following Andy's processes on how Andy speaks on stages, the frameworks, the processes on how to get to those stages, and so forth. But the solopreneur is the one who's like, I got to do this. They'll do the work. Okay. So we have to identify those two first before you start developing any processes or even understanding on how to get rid of bottlenecks. You got to understand, are you coming in as a business owner where as you do the work, you're identifying what the process is so that way you never have to do it again? Or are you coming in as a solopreneur? Real quick, one last example. Let's use a scenario here in this office that I'm in. The CEO, let's say that the CEO comes in to clean the window of the office that I'm in, the CEO of the building of this building. If they come in to clean the window, the business owner, based off his intent, a business owner is coming in to clean the window to create a standard operating procedure. He's going to come in to clean one window to understand what is the process, how long does it take to make sure that there's a streak-free shine on the window. He only does it one time. He may do it twice, he may do it 3 times, he may do it 4 times to really understand how it's supposed to be done, how long it's supposed to take, so on and so forth. The solopreneur comes in and cleans the window every single day. And they call themselves, they say, I'm running a business, I clean windows. I clean windows all day and I spend all day cleaning windows. How long have you been doing it for? I've been doing it for 15 years, cleaning windows. And it's two different intentions. So I think that's the first thing you got to understand when identifying bottlenecks.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Number two, it is a mindset. For me, every time I tackle anything, and I do this now out of habit, if I go, like I said, into a restaurant, I'm like, they could have done that different. They could have had 2 lanes. They could have done their menu better. Like, it's a mindset. Me and you talk about improvement like every day, right? In the business and the team. Would you agree that number 3 question or action item, a business owner after watching this podcast, number 3 would be look at the numbers, look at the data where you're currently at. That could be look at how many sales calls are done, how long are emails sitting. I always say numbers don't lie. So like if someone's doing a call, I was very intense with the team when we were doing internal onboarding. I would be like, why is it taking you an hour and 30 minutes? We need to open up that slot and get 2 customers in that hour and 30. We got to the point where we're like tested 30 minutes. It's like, wow, you really didn't need 90 minutes. Would you agree that number 3 is to look at the numbers and see where they are, collect data?
Yeah, if you can identify what's your longest fulfillment time on certain tasks, you'll be able to identify. I'm about to sneeze. If you can identify the longest fulfillment times for certain tasks, and if you could figure out how to shorten it, then you'll be able to create and identify bottlenecks. One example that we just did it recently, that Loom software that I told you about, is so one of the tasks that we had is when you record a video, when someone on our team, right? We have nearly 2 dozen employees at this point, team members. When you record a video, the process, Lori went out for whatever reason, but the process is to create a title, okay, and an SOP. So if someone records their screen, let's say I'm recording a video on a step by step on how to send an email to a client. Let's just use that as a scenario. The process used to be record your screen, take that video, and then type into our project management software what are the steps that needs to be accomplished, when is it due, so on and so forth. And so to record a standard operating procedure and send it to someone on our team, that could take 15 to 20 minutes because you got to spend 5 minutes on recording it, 5 to 10 minutes on just typing it out and then sending it to that person. Today with Loom, for whatever reason, they implemented AI. And so their AI reads or listens to what you said in the video, and it creates a subject for you in the title. So it literally tells you the title, and then there's a button that says use AI to create the SOP or the process. So what used to take 15 minutes now takes only 5. That's the whole point. What used to take 15 minutes of manual activity with AI now only takes 5 minutes. And there was a decision for me to pay for it. And I said, of course, it's going to save time. Why? Because the lead time, the fulfillment time of an SOP was 15 minutes. Even though it's a small thing, 15 minutes for me to condense it down to essentially 30% of what it originally takes, compounded over years and months and days, compounded by almost 2 dozen employees and team members, then I'm saving not only a lot of money, but I'm also making more money as in that decision to implement AI. So you want to identify what is taking a long amount of time for your staff or even yourself to do certain activities and identify how can you shorten that. That's how you're going to start saving bottlenecks. So what I found out, to deliver an SOP, one of the bottlenecks was somebody has to type it up manually on what the steps after recording the video, what the steps were. Today with AI, you can automate that. And I share that with you is because you want to identify some of the things that is in your business that's taking some time, even if you're the one doing it. What are some things that are taking some a long period of time, and how can you shorten that? You'll start saving time, energy, and money, and removing bottlenecks in your business.
For sure. I love this topic. This is like my favorite topic in business, operational efficiency, SOPs. There is another example I want to share, which is even when we decided to do this podcast back in the day, and by this I'm talking about 2020, we used to have to record, upload, and then have a video editor watch it and like clip it and put the captions manually. Like they had to hear the words. So right now they would be listening and then like typing each word. This was in 2020. 4 years now, fast forward, this software that we use does it all in seconds. Because one of the things I was hesitant when we were decided to do the podcast was like, we're gonna have to hire a videographer, we're gonna hire a video editor. I mean, the person for the captions, and then all this like things. And I was like, it's just a lot. Found the software, tested it out, and realized it went from a 5-day turnaround. Remember, it used to take us 5 to 7 days to get a completed edited video, assuming there was no errors. 5 to 7 days. On the fast side, 3 days, but time is money, so people charge more for a rush request. And I spent weeks pondering on this and thinking like there has to be a solution. And the reason I say this is my favorite part, because this is where analysis comes in and decision making. And then I presented to you, I was like, well, I found the software and it's $50 a month and it's going to do it in an instant. So whether we do 5 podcasts or 50 podcasts, we're fine. And then I remember you said you did it. You solved the problem. So that's how I see the mindset and the effort that it takes to make business efficient and enjoyable too. Like nobody wants to be spending 20 hours doing something that is not serving them.
That's true. That's true. And that's how you end up getting better with your essentially your business, because you're identifying these bottlenecks. That's what I'm sharing with you, the difference between a business owner, a business owner and an entrepreneur or a solopreneur. Like a business owner is going in, identifying different bottlenecks, and they're saying, okay, how do I create processes and systems so that way it doesn't have it happen again? So that's what they spend 8 hours doing. But then the entrepreneur is saying, oh, I got to go spend 8 hours actually doing the work, actually creating the emails, creating the text messages, wiping the windows, and so on and so forth. So to transition your business from a solopreneur to a business owner, it's really identifying what are some systems that you're creating inside of your business. So that way other people can deploy those systems for you on your behalf. And it all starts with identifying bottlenecks and removing those bottlenecks by putting standard operating processes or standard operating procedures inside your business.
I agree. Well, there's a lot more we can share. And again, part 1 is just to identify it. So this is just the questions that you can ask yourself in your next strategy session. Part 2, Andy, would you be open to sharing kind of the back end of the data that you look at and the processes that you've established for part 2? Would you be open to doing that next week?
For sure.
Awesome. You're about to unlock some good stuff.
All right. So next week, come back. It'll be on YouTube. The recording will be on YouTube, or you can come back live and come back and we can discuss next week on some different bottlenecks and create some how processes are created for businesses. And we can focus primarily on business marketing as some bottlenecks, because that's where my forte is at.
Sounds great. Well, we look forward to doing the next episode. We hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing the comments on any questions that you have.